process. Many people fail to respond to RFE or file an application before the deadline. This is why we offer a strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you. Not everyone qualifies. First, you need to speak with our cares team. We receive many requests, so we recommend you answer a few questions on our website, greencardguys.com. Our mission is to help people live and work in America legally. Go ahead and subscribe below and follow and share. Talk to you soon. And how are y'all doing today? If you have a case that's in a removal court, immigration removal court, removal proceedings, you want to follow this video. Watch this video, okay? So today we're going to talk about the steps that you can take to get your case either reopened or to get it dismissed completely. Now, of course, I'll share other tips. Now, today you want to watch this video because there's a lot of people stuck, unfortunately. A lot of people stuck and people don't know what to do, which is why we go here live to share with you these tips so you can take action. Whether you want to do it by yourself or hire an attorney, that's up to you, right? Now, I want to introduce myself. My name is John Ting. I practice immigration law in all 50 states of America and across the world to help you solve your immigration problem or prevent the problem from happening in the first place. Okay, so of course, disclaimer. This is a info session, as you could imagine. This is not. I'm not giving legal advice, because if you want legal advice specific to your situation, you really need to consult with an attorney one-on-one. Okay, so of course you might be asking. You want to ask questions. You're welcome to do that in the comment section. At least to point you in the right direction a little bit, right? So you have a little bit more knowledge or context of the situation. So welcome to the show. We're going to try to answer questions after I answer the topic of the day. So, and that is how to reopen. My voice is still a little shaky here, guys. Sorry about that. Coming off a cough. How to reopen your removal case in simple steps. So, as you can imagine, anything related to immigration is not so simple, unfortunately. Now, even you might think, oh, I got married to a U.S. citizen. That should be simple, which, by the way, we do have great news on a case, but I'll share that in a little bit. So we did have a case, for example, that a court, I don't want to name too much detail because client confidentiality, but the court got back to us, or not the court, but the Department of Homeland Security attorney got back to us on a case that was a removal order from, I think it was at least 20 years ago. At least 20 years ago. And it appeared, right? It appeared that it was possible, because it is possible based on the specific enforcement policy memo, okay? What was that, 2021, I believe, by Secretary Mayorkas and Doyle, that it is possible, right, to get it reopened. Now, to make it even stronger ability to get it reopened, it's better to have a petition on file or approved by immediate relative. Now, can it happen in general when the sponsor is a resident and that's considered family preference? We've had that happen before. However, when you have a case that's been removed, been order removed, okay, the Department of Homeland Security attorneys are going to look at the case history. Okay, in fact, this attorney, they just wanted to verify the facts, like what the heck happened in the past? Why was this person removed in the first place? Now, it's a lot to go through, right? If a client wants us to review every single detail to see if, someone is, so essentially the enforcement policy memo has 3 guidelines, okay? One is about public safety, and that's the more common one. The second one is about national security, and the third one is about how recent you entered into the United States. So most people wouldn't have an issue about the last one, about the recent entry. Most people, you've been here for like 10, 20 years, all right? So the more issue is typically about public safety. Maybe you had like a DWI in the past. Maybe you had possession of marijuana, something that may have knocked you out in terms of eligibility for something. Or maybe you didn't have a qualifying relative back then, such as like a spouse who's a citizen now, or even as a resident. So, by the way, welcome to drop your questions in the comment section or chat box. I will get to them soon. Just want to share a little context to the topic of the day. And let's see here. So, anyways, we requested PD on that, prosecutorial discretion, to get the case reopened and get the order vacated. Okay. However, unfortunately, the government attorney did not agree to it on this one because of credibility issues. So this goes back to many shows ago. I feel like I talk about a lot of different topics every single day, but this issue is lying. So that's why I say PSA, do not lie. Okay? Do not lie. Do not depend on a lawyer or consultant or notary or Aunt Sally, Uncle Bob, and say, oh, that's okay. It's okay to say a white lie. No, don't do that, because in a scenario like this, like, who could have predicted 20 years later till the present day that President Biden will allow a little bit more open enforcement policy, right? You can't predict the future. So it's just better not to lie, right? And so there was information on there. Essentially, that client had appealed their case many years ago, right? Like 20 years ago, appealed the case up to the Board of Immigration Appeals as the next court up, and they still found that he or she was not credible. Okay, that person lied. So if the government attorneys had an option which people to pick to reopen the case and vacate the removal order, they're likely not going to pick the person who lied. So, so some people might wonder, well, how the government know? How the government officer attorney know? Well, because they look at the record, right? So they look at that. I mean, and who knows? Maybe because the records are like everywhere. You know, we're officers of the court, so we have to ask our clients, like, look, if you have the documentation, let's get it to that government attorney sooner, so they can make a decision on this, because you've been waiting like more than a year. So, so some people ask, well, you know, if I have a removal order from a long time ago, is there any progress on it? So yes, we're seeing progress on it, right? Because we initially sent this request definitely I think it's been at least a year. So we resubmitted the request after the Supreme Court decision in mid-June from earlier this year. So in every government, so I'm not trying to say give up. Definitely not trying to say that. I'm just trying to share more knowledge as more real-time situation. So you have a better expectation where there's a more likelihood that you can get your case reopened, right? You can't just so I wouldn't say, like, if someone says like, hey John, can I just reopen my case? And we say, okay, well, are you married to a US citizen? Are you married to a resident? Do you have a petition filed, approved? Like, we need more facts. So I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but just to be a little bit more realistic. And for example, there's another court that the government attorney said that we had to file a motion to reopen first before the government could even consider joining our motion, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Okay, I've never heard that before, and it's kind of defeats the purpose of this whole enforcement memo. So that was quite strange. So unfortunately, in that specific court, for that court in the region of the country, Florida, by the way, but I'm not going to share the city name right now. It usually goes through like the same attorney, but not every city does it that way. It's kind of like, I guess, I'm sure they have it scheduled out, so like one attorney handles it per week or something. I'm sure there's most of the time they have like that kind of workflow. But yeah, in this one particular city in Orlando, every time we asked, it's been the same attorney, which we don't like that, right? So anyway, just wanted to share that insight so you have a little bit more real-time assessment. Now, fortunately, there is no chart like black and white, like, oh, in this scenario, is this the perfect scenario to reopen my case or to dismiss my case? Like what I just shared with you, it pretty much is our black and white table, I guess you could say, rubric. But that's the best I can get. The government's not going to provide any more information than that. So I feel horrible that, unfortunately, not for that client, because that past history of no credibility, He or she may have lied on an application or lied in testimony, and the government attorney or the judge figured it out by asking probably usually the same question, and the person said a little bit different information. It's possible that happens actually. Sometimes I ask like that same question like 20 minutes later, and then you get all tripped up, right? So, or maybe your witness said something, and then, but you're in your testimony, you said something completely different. That's where, that's where, that's where we prepare. Why we prepare the witnesses, so everyone's on the same page. And I'm not saying to prepare to lie, to prepare to tell the truth, right? Because you got to raise your hand, and take the oath, right? Because I have so many examples, but I won't get into it. So hopefully that gives you an idea, a little bit more realistic insight on how to reopen your case. Yeah, it's not gonna be quick, but you also have to tell the truth to your attorney, like what happened in the past. And 20 plus years ago, you might not know, you might not remember, and you might think, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't need to tell my attorney. Look, we don't want to mislead you, so it's better that you provide us as the best information, the most knowledge you have about your own case. All right. Again, welcome to the show, greencardguys.tv. I'm your host, John Ting. I practice immigration law in all 50 states of America across the world, helping you solve your immigration problem or maybe prevent the problem from happening in the first place. Okay, folks, so we do offer strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you. You got to take advantage of it. You unlock this free strategy session. Now, not everyone's qualified. Go to our website, greencardguys.com, or if you're on Facebook, YouTube, you can see the number right up here. Now, to the first question on TikTok, I will probably answer 10 questions. And if I don't get back to you, DM us or just give us a call. Hi, how long are you seeing? Am I seeing I-130 spouse of U.S. citizen? Spouse not. Thanks for the information. Spouse not in America. Ooh, it's just average 12 months for the petition. Unfortunately, yeah, because you might ask, well, I hear all about these other folks who get the interview waived. That's only in America. I mean, I don't know why they have two different processes. Whether someone's abroad or in America, they should just keep it the same. I really think that if they're going to allow people to get the interview waived, which that's a success story we just got in the mail today. We had a client just approved, and we filed their case in April. They filed their case in April, and we just got it approved in October. So a little bit longer than the trend in 2023, but still less than 12 months, right? The traditional is 12 months. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Ezra. If I hope, and I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. Let's see here. Let me switch the screen so I can see this better. What is the processing time for asylee 485? I mean, I can check, but and I can share my screen on Facebook and YouTube. But yeah, typically it's long. And I think I know the reason why. I mean, of course, the government doesn't tell you exactly why they take so long on cases. But let me pull up processing times. Usually for that application, based on asylee, which congratulations on getting it approved, it usually takes like 3 to 4 years. And so that's why I think February this year, 2023, USA has updated the guidance to allow people like yourself to go ahead and file the 485 application, even if like literally yesterday you just got a granted asylee status. And that's because they know they take a hell of a long time on the 485 based on this specific situation. So again, I say that because I don't want the people who are married to a U.S. citizen to get distracted thinking that they have to wait a longer time, just like you. So let me share my screen on Facebook and YouTube real quick so you can see it. Okay. All right, there you go. So sometimes I'm able to share my screen like this, real quick. 485. I clicked on just Google search USCIS processing time. I have a TikTok video about this on how to do that. You can click the drop down. I have it on family based. Now I need to change it to based on refugee admission. Now they're definitely not for people who have been approved for asylum status or refugee. They're definitely not going to approve it in less than 12 months. Okay, so keep that in mind. They just have it based on field offices, not the National Benefits Center. So right now, I don't remember who asked this, but right now it shows. I think Paki asked this. It's 31 and a half months. 80% of cases are taking 31 and a half months. So that's almost 3 years. It's actually a little bit less time than I checked about a month ago. So that's good, I guess. That's a good trend to see. So if you think you're gonna be, or as soon as you're approved for asylee status, and I think even for refugee status, apply for the 485 application ASAP. I believe the reason they're also taking longer in general for those is because they're reviewing your asylum claim from before. Because I have heard of people get their asylee status revoked because the story was very similar to other people. So again, another example, do not lie. Do not lie. Okay. All right, to Meg IT. Oh shoot, sorry, Maria. Shout out to Maria and Sophia helping us out on pinning the comments or questions. Thank you. Okay, so all right, Meg, you're filing for marriage-based green card, more difficult than filing for citizenship. Well, that would have to happen first anyway. But I would say difficult. It depends on the person's factual scenario, their immigration history. I mean, just putting any criminal history to the side. I mean, most people just need help in terms of like just moving the case along, understanding the concept of certain terminology. And for us, you can consider us like um, your personal lawyer, as like President Trump would say, your personal lawyer in that sense. Like we're right there with you along the way, so that if schedule a consultation with another lawyer and your case already filed, most law firms don't like to answer questions that they're like, you just need a higher lawyer, right? So that's why we share tips on the live show, because I get it. I totally understand how other lawyers think. So if you're asking that question because you're wondering, well, can you file yourself? Yes, you can. There's plenty of people that do it themselves. But if you're looking for peace of mind and you just don't want to, you got a lot on your plate, you and your spouse's plate, then that's where we can come in. But where we also come in is especially when, let's say you filed yourself or you hired another attorney and maybe they just don't want to help anymore for some reason. Or maybe their fees are too expensive for that next step. Then we help with RFE. So there's like middle of the case or towards the end, request for evidence, or NOID, notice of intent to deny. Okay, so we help with those scenarios as well. Which, if you're hiring a lawyer for this kind of scenario, we do recommend also hiring that same law firm to help you, at the very least, prepare for the interview. Because if you have the interview, right, if you get scheduled, again, don't be scared. Don't be scared, okay? We have cases approved, okay, when people have the interview, okay? It's just what happened before 2022. That was a traditional thing. Hey, you get your interview waived. That's wonderful. That's what happened to a client that we got approved today. They did not have an interview that we filed in April. Okay, so my math is correct. May, June, July, August, September, October. What was that? 5.5 months? That's great. 5.5 months. That's wonderful. So I mean, that's about 3 to 5 months on average. All right, which is what I mentioned before. Juanita, what's up? So what waiver do I use if you found inadmissible at the border? It depends on at the border. So then that's a 601 form. 601. There's another one, 601A, but that's if you're in the U.S. For unlawful presence, like overstayed your visa or entry without a visa. Okay, so little caveat to that. For people who enter with a visa and still need a 601, that's typically if your sponsor is a family preference category. Okay, so just clarify that up. But yeah, for you, Juanita, it's 601, and they may require I-212 as well. Some people call that a waiver, but that's technically the I-212 is permission to advance permission to reenter. What? So it's a couple different forms possibly for you. That's the things I think about when people say at the border. Let's see. All right. On the meantime, let me check out. Okay. YouTube comments here. Hello, TE. Welcome back. You sent many times email to Emma on the website chat. They don't answer. Should I connect? How should I connect? You've been waiting for an interview 4 years. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that, TE. I remember it's been a while for you. You have a clean background. Yeah, it's your case is not. If you have a case delayed that you think is taking a hell of a long time for no reason, it's not because you have a bad case, and it's not because you have a clean case. Because you might be wondering, I have a clean case. I have a clean background. Why is my case taking so long? It has nothing to do about that. It's just thousands of cases on file, and the government claims that there's just not enough people working. They claim a lot of things, but you can't keep using the pandemic as an excuse, folks. Or not you, but they, USCIS or State Department. So, I mean, TE, I mean, I don't know. I mentioned this before, but your situation sounds like a mandamus lawsuit. I know a lot of people think like, yeah, I know, John, it's been a long time, but I know next month, bro, they're gonna make a decision. No, likely not. Likely not. And plus, especially if you are like, it's hard to live your life like that, is what I'm trying to say. Sure, maybe a tiny little percentage they might approve it, but you have no facts to make you confident in that, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, and TE, you say that's a 485 application pending for 4 years. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've talked to our team yet, but you might want to hit us up. Okay, give us a call. All right. Yeah, let us know. Okay, because yeah, I'm here to help with y'all's mindset too. Because yeah, again, a lot of people think like, oh, my case is gonna be approved next month. Right, John? Well, okay. Sometimes we ask people like, okay, what facts make you think that? All right, did USCIS tell you, give you a notification? Hey, we're gonna give you a decision next month. No, they don't do that crap. That'd be nice. That'd be nice if they do something like Domino's Pizza Tracker, but no, I'm not sponsored by Domino's. But hey, if you work for Domino's, hit me up. Okay, so let's see here. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, TE. You've joined the live show before, which I appreciate. Welcome back, but now it's really the time to take action. Okay, because I recall seeing your questions from like several months ago. So welcome back, but Emma chat, they don't first of all, they don't do second, third of all, there's no expedite request for 485 application. Okay, as far as I know, it's only possible for I-130 petition, a 765, so that reasoning is typically job loss, or a 131 advanced parole, which I just submitted expedite request for that basis for some of our Israeli national clients, because they got to go back to the war, help out their country. So this is one of those scenarios that you would think USCIS would have an easy button, like this makes sense button. I need to approve it. I need to grant it right now. But no, they don't. What kind of nonsense is this, right? Like, how long does a client have to wait? All right, let me switch over back to TikTok real quick. By the way, I'm not trying to give you all a hard time. It's more about being realistic with the situation. And especially if you want to go travel, you want to do things with your life, don't depend on the government. This kind of, sorry, a little bit of a, I guess you could say, a lesson learned, right? Like, look, we try to trust the government and CDC, but I know there's some, I'm not trying to say like alternative facts, but there's not trying to create conspiracy theory, but there's just information out there is like makes you think like were we led down the right path, right? It's easier to say in hindsight, right, after the fact, but so you would think, yeah, the government does try to lead you the way at that moment, but at the end of the day, you got to make your own decision of your own life, and this includes your immigration case. All right, back to TikTok, Lola. Could I enlighten you about a company? If a company wants to file for you, what does one need? There's a lot I can say, but first, one of the first things we look at is what kind of position. Have you already worked for them? Okay, there's a lot of tips that we typically share every Wednesday about employment cases. So tune in again tomorrow, Lola, because we sync it up to LinkedIn as well on Wednesdays. But by the way, folks, if you know anyone in HR, human resources, please share our LinkedIn page. Okay, I'll try to ask one of my marketing team members to pin it on the respective channels so you can share it. Share our LinkedIn page. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot to know. What does one need to do? I mean, first of all, it sounds like you already told that potential prospective employer, so that's a good thing. Now, if you're in the U.S., you need to maintain non-immigrant visa. So when you say sponsored, I initially think like you're sponsored for a green card. So if you're getting sponsored for a green card, then you need to maintain, and you're here in the U.S., you need to maintain your non-immigrant visa. Okay, PK, sounds like you have a similar question. Is there any way your employer can sponsor you? Yeah, I mean, in general, yes. Even if it's for residency, you can, and there's something called EB3 for professionals, which requires a degree. What's it called? A skilled workers or unskilled workers. Okay, so there's many other options, but that's typically the first thing I mention when people ask this kind of question. There's EB1, there's EB2. I won't go into full detail right now. I'm thinking about creating a recording video to talk more detail about all that kind of stuff, those options. So stay tuned, okay, folks? Let's see here. But what I recommend, okay, for PK, I think, and the prior person, the thing is, when a company offers you a salary, so they sent you a job offer, I'm not saying it's too late, but it can get a little awkward because there is we're pretty much a first step. Like once we fine tune the job description, the duties, and it has to be based on minimum qualifications, basically. If then we can provide based on the government data, there's like a chart basically, and based on your experience as well, that we share what the prevailing wage is. Prevailing wage is not exactly like the same thing as minimum wage, but it is important to know. So yeah, you just might get a little awkward between the employer versus you. And anyway, every time you have to change it for the employer, I mean, everyone's cool about it unless they have a budget, and that's where it can get really awkward. So okay, now back to YouTube real quick. Why Hori? Asylum denied back in 2003. Sorry to hear that. How to prepare for an AOS interview having dismissal order. Your follow-up comment, any interview waived for those with dismissal order. AOS, by the way, with USC sponsor. Asylum denied. If you had a 589 denied, again, it's probably not an issue unless there was an issue about credibility, if you had lied in the past. Now, if you AOS interview, so some people who apply for asylum actually have entered with a visa. So why Hori, if you are one of those who actually entered with a visa, I think you know already, you can get adjusted in America. Yes, with dismissal order. If your hot tip right here, if you already filed your 485 and it's whether it's admin closed or not, you want to send USCIS your dismissal order from court so they know they can resume the case processing. Do not assume that the court will notify USCIS. That is another reason why you have a lawyer. Those agencies don't talk to each other, okay? That's what we help you with. All right. So if you don't know what you're doing, let a lawyer help you. Okay. So, but yeah, how to prepare for AOS interview having dismissal order. I mean, same way that you normally would. Uh, Again, as long as, because typically they wouldn't ask you about your court case unless there's an inclination that some kind of indicia, any indication that you lied, which I would think the judge would not have dismissed your case if you did. So, but they could ask you if you had a removal case before and just clarify those dates and get it. You have an order for dismissal order, or do you have a copy of that? That's probably all they would ask related to that at your AOS interview. Uh, Pab Esco. That name sounds kind of familiar. Oh, shoot. Sorry, Maria. I missed it. Pab Esco was the one I was going to answer. So Lola and PK, hopefully I answered your question to some extent. Okay, thanks, Maria. Pab Esco, you're in I-130 CSPA limbo, Child Status Protection Act limbo. Yeah, it's a very complex thing. Single and 29 years old. Parents are residents. How quick can I adjust status? Unfortunately, as you know, it's a very complex situation. I can't realistically answer that, but that's one of those that I need to know. Like when people, you're welcome to ask me in a strategy session. So I think in this scenario, because it takes a lot of time, right? So um, we do offer the 15 minutes on the house, but it takes a lot of time to figure this out for y'all. For the CSPA, we may have to charge. So I'm going to talk to my leadership team on this because we do get a lot of requests and we want to get to you as soon as possible. But essentially, if your petition is still pending and you're like, what the hell? Why is it taking so long? And you're in a situation, it's okay that the petition is still pending. I know it's frustrating, but when you're a family preference, the petition's pending a long time. It actually benefits you for the CSPA based on the calculation, okay, the formula. So, but it's not like the government just like shares the formula like out and about and say like, hey, you applied for this, so you should know this. No, that's what a lawyer's for. All right. So hopefully that helps, but we need to know the receipt date on I-130, approval date, priority date, because sometimes not the receipt date is not always the same as priority date, especially if it's filed a long time ago. Your date of birth, okay, for the person in question, that needs help, essentially. And I think maybe a couple other things. You apply for 45 in December 2021 and submit RFE docs May 2023. How do you get a faster response? Ooh. May 2023. Yeah, I would say, especially because your case was submitted a long time ago, and it sounds like I just get the inclination you might not have your interview might be waived. May, now it's almost November. It's almost Halloween, folks. So what are you going to dress up as? Do y'all still dress up? I don't, but we're going to do that as a team for fun. Have a little contest. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't, because the only way I don't think Emma's going to help. You can try Emma website chat on the USCS website. Um, but if it's like December, then you may want to consider a lawsuit. This is based on when you filed, because at that time that'd be 2 years. Okay, not that you necessarily have to wait 2 years, just because you submitted RFE response a couple months ago. So hopefully that helps. Okay, but don't be shy if it's December and still haven't received a response from the government. Contact us. Okay. Let's see. Eddie Valdez on Facebook ask how long do I need to wait to get your interview date when your form I-730 is at the NVC? This is this is like, I wish I had a magic ball for this kind of question because I don't know the answer. All right. Just because you're at NVC, I mean, I would say average 6 months, but in general, people who are married to U.S. citizen, they're the ones prioritized, right? But that doesn't mean other applicants are not getting scheduled. It's just Hopefully you haven't been at NVC too long. All right. But if you have, then if it has been like a year and you're still at the NVC stage, then you want to consider possibly filing a lawsuit, okay, for mandamus. Unknown on TikTok. It's been almost 2 years for you, and you haven't heard anything about green card after officer's house visit. Ooh, okay. So now that you mentioned officer visit, okay, I'm sure it wasn't necessarily pleasant for you or your spouse, but it's been 2 years. So if you file a lawsuit, which you could, I'm assuming this is a AOS because I typically do site visits when people apply for adjustment. Not for everyone though, but if they did a site visit, it just automatically expect that they're going to send you a request for evidence, and you might think, well, if that's the case, why didn't they send that to me already? Because they're hella slow. It's like the government agencies don't talk to each other. The personnel don't talk to each other. It's like they go to a site visit and they just make some notes in the system, and they just don't say, they don't tap their coworker on the shoulder and say, hey, okay, send them RFE. Like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with the USCIS workflow, but now that you've had the luxury of joining live show, asking this question, get ready for RFE. Okay, whether you want to file a lawsuit or not, but sometimes when we file a lawsuit, some of our clients don't tell us about an officer visit from before, so we're scrambling, And when we file a mandamus lawsuit, it doesn't include responding to RFE. So that's why now we're being more proactive to mention, by the way, if you get RFE, we do offer that service, but it's a separate fee. So, unknown, you haven't filed it yet, right? So make sure you're getting your marriage evidence collected, gather them. The last 12 months, bank statements, for example. It doesn't have to be every single bank account, checking account, savings account, but your main one that you use, okay? If you haven't been using it and that's the one you shared to USAS, you want to start using it more often, okay? All right, because you want to get prepared for an RFE. I just hate seeing when people don't have a lawyer for the RFE and they ultimately get denied, right? And realistically, like if when we ask questions to people and ask you like, do you have this evidence? Because if you don't, then I mean, there's no point in paying us to help you with RFE, right? Because if you don't have the evidence, you don't have it. So that's the other thing that's different. Like some law firms will say, I'm not going to even assess your case. I'm not going to analyze your case until you pay a deposit. I think that's pretty rude. Like we can give you an idea. Like, look, if you don't have any bank statement, we're going to have to think outside the box, which we absolutely can. But it's going to take, it's going to be probably difficult for you. So you definitely want to get on the ball and start working on that, gathering the evidence. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps. Okay. So appreciate it, folks. I am going to hop off now, give my voice a rest, and I'll be back on tomorrow on LinkedIn as well. So if you enjoy the way we share content, please follow up here or if you're on TikTok, follow up there. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, down here, and tap the screen and click the likes if you appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see y'all soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.